I got it ready.
Okay, you're good.
Are we good?
Phones are off.
All right,
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
I'm showing 6 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call to order, this city council business meeting of Tuesday, July 22nd.
Yeah, I'm ready.
That's
Strike
it.
it out.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Which way are?
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I get a roll call of officers, please?
Westwood,
Here.
Conley,
Here.
Daniel.
Here.
Davis, Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Ruben.
Here. All right.
Don't start
The record will
the
show we have 5 members of council present. I will look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Conley, a second from Councilmember Daniel. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, let's get a roll call, make it official.
Conley,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Ruben.
Yes.
Sorry.
5-0, the motion passes. I'll entertain a motion regarding the minutes of July 8th.
I move to approve the minutes of July 8, 2025.
I'll second that.
Comments? Oh, I'm sorry. A motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Conley. Any comments at the table? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Conley,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Ruben.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes. Mayor's reports. I'll try to do this in an orderly fashion. So first off, for the public's notice as well as for council, July is one of those months where we have the elusive third Tuesday, which means it'll be 3 weeks until our next meeting rather than 2. That'll be on the second week in August, which I want to say is the 12th.
I memorized the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
All right. We had a meeting on the EDA street project here last week. Just to be clear, that was not a required meeting. We weren't checking a box. It was just setting and managing expectations and making sure the public was aware. As a result, some things that came out of that is folks wanted to have a more detailed map of that project. So that is online at the city website. If you go to the current news, that is now listed as one of the topics, and we'll keep updates there as they develop. There's also a possibility as communications come forward, we'll kind of put calendars and stuff. That project is actually just going out to bid this week, so the specific timeline is still TBD. We have hopes that we'll see boots on the ground this year, but there's a possibility that it may be next year, and there's pros and cons to both sides of that. So again, and everybody's welcome to go look at that. The primary project that came out of the city is basically curb to curb, which does include the road in between, and the identified roads, which were a lot driven by the flood and the grant capability, because that's something we're doing with outside money. There are 2 things on there to help address sidewalks, and some of that sidewalks we are including using some stormwater resort tax monies that are appropriately used for sidewalks, because that was one of the things we set, most specifically going up to the high school as the safe routes to school, and just because that's the road that gets used. Also in the budget, we'll see tonight that there is a proposal that we are looking at including a match fund for sidewalks and putting some money aside that basically will be a first come, first serve application. It's kind of like the city will be offering grants to get half your sidewalk paid for.
Do we have
And-
do we have a name for this program yet? I think it deserves
I think
a name.
we just call it a sidewalk cost share so far is what we've been calling it.
Just so people can be familiar with it when we talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, I think. So-
And what still has to be set is, once we approve that in a budget, I will look to council to set the rules of that. Historically, what we've seen done is like a 50%, but I think also we will probably want to put a cap on that. So if somebody comes in and I own an entire block, we don't want to blow it all on one
Right.
spot.
Mhm.
So, once that's approved in the budget, then we'll have council set those parameters and it will be immediately available on a first come, first served until it's gone. And hopefully we can use that to help improve the sidewalks in our town. Rocky Fork, we awarded that bid. They're working through the process of getting the flood permit approved. There's a process that will have a public notice and hearing. There'll be an ad that goes out, and even prior to that, DEQ actually has to go through and see if there's anything else. Even though we're just tearing it down because it's in a floodplain, they have to, more bureaucracy. So, I will continue to push and nudge that on a daily basis.
Would have been better if it would have just.
I know.
So you said DEQ and another public?
I said DEQ and I meant DES, I'm sorry. And, well, the flood permit is us.
Okay.
So DES has to sign off of before we sign off on the flood permit, and there has to be a public hearing before we sign off on the flood permit.
Just one hearing?
Or just one public hearing. And it's actually just a public notice. It goes in.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't even, it's not even a hearing, it's just a public notice, and if there's no responses within 14 days, then or maybe it's 15 days, then we say, make it go away. We will, make sure we send out a notice of that. I'm sure that there is, the press and several entities in town will also want to know about that. That'll be a pretty big deal the day that we're able to drop that and make it go away. I can report that the teddy bear has gone out of the window. There were comments and concerns and questions I had about the bear, and it has been removed.
Oh, I guess I missed it.
Yeah.
You didn't see the bear?
Eagle's Nest, we are still monitoring. We have all the data prepared in a generic application. We're still monitoring for applications on that. And the only reason I throw that in there, not because there's new developments, just because every time we talk about Rocky Fork, the next question is immediately, what about Eagle's Nest? Brewery Hill, because that also comes up in there. We have that application in. Just a reminder, we expect to hear about that in October or November, so it would be a next year project. In fact, maybe even 2 years out, but it'll be October, November before we get information on that. So that's just to kind of remind people about those outstanding projects that I answer the phone on regularly.
What are we waiting for in Brewery Hill?
The state, MDT,
Oh, okay.
MDOT, makes a determination of who's getting the grant money, who they're awarding that to.
Oh,
And so,
I thought we were already-
I know, I thought we already had it.
No.
No.
We
What we did is
applied.
we applied a
Applied,
packet
okay.
and submitted and done that. I will say, having been involved in conversations with those folks, I feel, I have a high level of confidence in our package, and I hope that they see it the same way. I think it's visible. It's one of those where they get to tout it and show off what they've done, and they like those sort of projects. And I think we put together a good package that allows them to do that with our project on Brewery Hill. City attorney status, I just wanted to provide a group. So you'll recall we did a 3-month extension. Part of that was because I have been working with the league. At one point in time, they had offered, they were going to offer city services through the league for the municipal portion of things. They have changed that, and what they're putting together is kind of a list of pre-screened as well as the information to use to publish that's out there. I haven't spoken with them this week, but I did talk to them when they were down in town a couple of weeks ago, and they told me they're nearing on that. There's a possibility we may end up bringing another 3-month extension in, but that's what the holdup is there.
Because you're working with the league, there's no ads have been published.
No ads have been published. And I'm
Gotcha.
actually hoping they're going to give us that information that
Okay.
they've pre-screened and told us,
Okay.
here's what you're looking for.
All right.
So again, just trying to answer the questions that come up from the day-to-day. We met with the floodplain mapping folks. This is the flood map that was due to be released the second week of June, 3 years ago. They'll have some of that data done by the end of this year. And then there is also, a possibility that their funding may not get the entire project all the way through to completion. That poses a little bit of a problem for the city because we are stuck using the most current data, which is from the 80s. And so we will keep rooting for them in the background, and we'll continue to monitor that. But if people are asking,
Yeah.
we'll have some data, some table data. In fact, I actually have some table data now. And we have it in the planning office here, so if they want to come in and talk to Brian, they're able to get that. But we're looking toward the end of this year and then into next year before we actually get the new maps.
So if somebody applies for a building permit, they use what's online?
They use the
The FEMA
19
permit.
So what's happening is, there's what's called the latest and best information, the starting map, and then what they do is they have LOMAs or LOMARs, which are
Right.
basically letters they get in addition to that. But the starting point for all of those is the map of record, which is from the 80s.
Right.
1981.
Okay.
That's what
I
we're
just-
working on.
That's what I was trying to figure out, exactly what is the guiding document, which,
Yes, the
which
starting
truly
point.
is the
Yeah.
1981.
And if anybody has questions to that, they're welcome to call in and we will guide them and walk them through that process if it impacts them directly. Republic, you may have noted on the agenda, we had talked about last week that there would be basically a letter of commitment saying we had selected with them even though we are doing that. They, unbeknownst to them, had a problem with their mail, so they thought they had sent it out, but we had not yet received it. And we did not get it until this week, which is after the packet went out. So I talked to them. You guys all, by the way, have a copy of that letter that was handed out. It'll be in the packet next time, so the public has a chance to look at it. But because that is basically a letter of commitment, I refused to sign it until council had given its stamp of approval on that. I did let them know that the intent was to sign it as soon as council approved it and that we had discussed it, and I did not foresee particular issues, but that's the status of that. Bear Safe, the signs, in the budget this year, which I know we have not approved yet, we allocated $2,000 from the garbage to help educate the public and get it out there. They are working on getting those signs printed, and then those will be the signs that come in. And we saw those, that's the protect yourself, protect the bear coming into town, and then secure your trash as it goes out of town. So that's moving forward. The updates, I don't have the updated numbers on the trash can survey. I do know that it continues to go up because it's something that I continue to do on each day when the trash is in our area. I found that the best day to do it is the days that trash pickup because all the cans are out and are ready. Anybody who's interested in participating in that, you can reach out to, help me think of, we got two, reach out to Yellowstone Wildlife Sanctuary and BR there and get on that list. And we can get you set up. It's just something you put on your phone and the Alley Walkers, one of our walking groups in town, does that. And then we've just got, so.
And Yellowstone Wildlife is the one coordinating it?
They're maintaining it. They're one of the 2 contact points to get on that list. So, and since I'm not remembering the other, Stephanie, no.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're not gonna do it.
I'm in trouble. So for now, reach out to YWS and get on that list if you'd like to participate in that. We'd love, there's 1,800 cans. We've probably got 300 done now. Public Works, 16-inch bypass. Their pre-construction meeting is tomorrow. This is the water main that has been in our CIP since the golf course came into existence. Work is slated to start on the 28th. So that will get you the adequate fire flow up on top of the west bench. So that's starting to start on the 28th. Water, we've got a couple of leaks. There was one over by the county services building, which my understanding is it has been resolved. There's another leak up on Silver Circle that you may hear about, particularly if you're Ward 1. It is actually a long existing issue and kind of has to do with how they built it the first time. It's one of those where there's one line that goes in and it splits out with a single curb stop in it and just has really bad plumbing. We are working on that just because of the size and scope. That's probably a multi-week project.
question on that.
Yes, ma'am.
When are they turning off water? When's that project starting?
So are you talking about the?
Silver Circle.
So the Silver Circle one specifically,
Mm.
as of this morning, they have now identified a turnoff that affects only that building.
Oh,
So
excellent.
going into the weekend, when this first showed up, the only place they knew to have a turnoff was gonna take off 35 houses offline.
Mhm.
Mike, went through and looked at some old aerials and found before they had paved it, and found what looked like a ditch, and so they went and dug up, and sure enough, there was a turnoff. So they can now shut off that,
Excellent.
they can now shut off that single building, so it doesn't impact anybody else.
Okay.
And then what they will do is they will run a temporary source from the hydrant that goes across with a
A bump.
road bump and everything to get people over it, because they're looking at probably like a week apiece for that. And what they're doing is there's a meeting tomorrow. It's one of those where we'll be putting in new individual curb stops and tapping them in.
Okay.
But it will be their responsibility
Yep.
to get it out. So it's kind of the same thing as what happened on Broadway
Mm.
several years ago. The difference is we are requiring them all to sign on and say they're on board before we move forward. So I anticipate that'll be taken care of tomorrow, but the alternative is we'll just put it in and then they all get to pay for it every year over and over and over again.
Did everyone sign?
Pardon?
Did everyone sign?
No, that's what that meeting is for tomorrow.
Oh,
There's a meeting
okay.
tomorrow to get everybody on board with it.
Okay.
Wastewater is still looking like September before we move forward. And then, like I said, the EDA project is going out for bid on Thursday, and so we'll get some more timelines and stuff there. Tennis courts. While we do not yet have a formalized spot of where those tennis courts are going, there is a grant opportunity that has come up that was identified this week. The deadline is the 31st. There is a pre-application that is due by the 31st. It does not have any funding commitment with that. With that knowledge, I'm gonna go ahead, and sign the city backing. I said it's a non-committal. It just is letting them know that, yes, we're in favor of them getting money from other sources. Okay? I have, if someone will remind me at the end of this meeting, I have some stuff from MDOT that was sent out to all the council members from 15 years ago, but I will hand them out to you all, just so you have, I haven't looked at it yet.
Why do you think it's still pertinent 15 years later?
No. The data is current. The address list that they sent it to
Oh,
is 15 years
okay,
old.
okay.
So I was gonna bring that in and hand it out with all this other stuff, and I'm just getting a
Gotcha.
note now that reminds me. I think that's everything I had on my list. Is there anything from council? All right. Hearing none, what we will do is we move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on anything within the council's purview. This is one of multiple public comment periods. There will be a light public comment period at the end. It used to be that we said, this is for anything not on the agenda, but understanding that some people have different schedules that allow, this is just a public comment. On anything we take action on, there will be a public comment period that is specific to that public, to that agenda item, of which tonight we only have one. But with that, I will go ahead and open public comment. And you're welcome to stand to the podium. If you would address your comments to me, you'll have 3 minutes to speak your mind. I'll look first to the chamber. I don't see anybody jumping up to the podium here. So next I will go to online. I'm looking for cameras to turn on, or possibly raised hands or mics to come undone. Seeing none, I'm going once, going twice, and 3 times. We'll close that opportunity for public comment. Again, there will be another one at the end. We'll move into the action part of the meeting. I will look for motion on resolution 3710.
I move to approve resolution number 3710, authorization to submit an MSTEP infrastructure planning grant application.
I second.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Ronning, second from Councilmember Conley. Discussion at the table.
We just talked about this last time. Anybody have any questions on it or anything like that?
Any further questions
Mike
from
said if
here?
we didn't do it, we'd be the only people in, or only city in the state to do
The
it.
entire state that would do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this is basically where they put together our preliminary planning grants and paper stuff and stuff. The good news is all the conversation is because of all the headway we've made in the last year. Our list of to-dos is dwindling and getting narrower and more focused. Hearing no discussion at the table, we'll go to public comment. This is specific to the MSAP planning grant. Opening public comment, looking to the chambers. Nobody leaping to their feet. We'll go to online. I see one open mic. Mr. Weiss, did you want to make a comment on the MSAP planning grant? Or if not, you can turn off your mic and then I'll just know that wasn't intentional.
Nope, it's good.
All right. Going once for public comment on the MSAP planning grant. Twice. And 3 times to make it official. We'll go ahead and close the public comment on that. Any further discussion at the table? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Rude?
Yes.
Cuthberт?
Yes. 5-0, the motion passes. That concludes the shortest agenda we've ever had, to make up for a
Ever.
really, really long one we had a couple of times ago. All right, for the public, the next portion of the agenda is we talk about things that are upcoming. This is the prep we do to make sure that the business portion of the next meeting is really, really boring. I will point out, just while we've got folks here, there are a couple of things that will be at the next meeting. One of them is the downtown master plan. You'll be seeing a publication and notice on that. And that is kind of, you went to the growth policy and did click here to enlarge on downtown. That's what the purpose of that plan is. And that'll be at the next meeting. Also, the next meeting is where council will approve our budget. So I'll just throw those out there and you'll hear some budget discussions tonight as we move that direction. Pardon?
Budget won't be approved till the last meeting.
We'll just.
Oh, it's the last meeting in August, not the first meeting in August. Scratch that. We'll have it as a preview and discuss it, but it's not till the second meeting in August. Well, at that first meeting in August, will we have our numbers yet, do you suppose?
Yeah, we,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's when we'll have our final numbers and know what we're working with, and then we'll approve it the second meeting in August. My error, I apologize. All right, so with that, let's start with the Public Health and Safety Committee, and for that, I will look to Committee Chair Conley to update us.
Okay, this morning, besides, I handed out the draft of the waste and construction waste, change to chapter 4-1-16. And what you see in front of you, the things that are in red are the additions, crosses off are things we're taking out. For instance, on A, solid waste shall be stored in a metal, plastic, or plastic containers having tight, not fitting, but tight latching covers. Then we added D, all attractants shall be stored in a bear-resistant container. Containers shall not be overfilled so they don't close securely, and containers shall not be purposefully disabled, which we've discovered that does happen. We also thought we would add E, construction sites shall have a bear-resistant container for attractant waste. If the construction dumpster is not bear-resistant, a separate bear-resistant container shall be available for attractant waste. It shall be an offense to fail to secure trash in a way that prevents trash from blowing and becoming litter. We found that construction sites, quite often, the workers will throw what's left of their lunch into the construction dumpster, which attracts bear. So now they're gonna have a little blue hauler for their true trash. And then F would be construction dumpsters shall be covered and secured when unattended. We felt that the fine should be $100 for each offense and subsequent offenses as well. And then that just added the effective date of 3. Any comments?
I just have a quick question. So like with in July, when we have these huge weekends, and, I mean, every dumpster downtown is overflowing, you know, because Republic does not pick up Sunday morning, and you have them not showing up until Monday. I mean, what would the solution for those businesses, you know, those restaurants and stuff like that be, so that their dumpster is not overflowing? I mean, you can't really keep your trash inside your restaurant, it's a health. Yeah.
I'll make a comment, if the mayor wants on that.
Well,
Let's keep it at the table
Yeah,
for a moment.
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
But I think Mike, at the last meeting we had at 4:30, Mike said that, maybe because 4th of July fell on a Friday, that there was a pickup in the weekend.
On Saturday.
On Saturday, because there was a weekend. So, I mean, it can happen, that, we can get weekend pickups. And I wonder if it's as bad as all that, because I walked around and I didn't see a whole big problem, I don't know.
after speaking to one of our, business owners that own 3 or 4 restaurants in town,
Okay,
that he felt that the bigger problem was when they took Monday off as a holiday. And then that created a 3-day. So not necessarily the 4th of July, but if the 4th of July falls on a Monday, then that's a real issue. And I believe that, there was a discussion with the trash company to say, we can't go 3 days without a dumpster pickup.
so there's a couple of issues here from my perspective. One of them is what the city's role is and is not. And I actually don't have concerns with what's been proposed. And the two things that I see are significantly different are construction dumpsters covered so we don't have blowing litter, and a separate bear-resistant container shall be available in those situations. So that, and I think that's an acknowledgement that construction dumpsters are not necessarily bear-resistant.
Right.
So what we're saying is it has to be bear-resistant, and by the way, rather than saying you have to make, and maybe that's some of that wording, oh yeah, it says that, if the construction dumpster is not bear-resistant, it's a separate bear-resistant container, so I'll do it, so I think it already captures that.
Right.
The issue that we have is that the cities, or the businesses within the city are not part of that city contract.
Correct.
Right.
Those are handled separately, and I would propose that we don't want to become part of that. We don't want to get in that business. And to me, it feels very similar to conversations, I have fielded calls, as I know the Public Works Director has, of, hey, we haven't got, we're not getting the trash service we want, outside of town, inside of town at businesses. Can you throw your weight around and cause that to happen? I'm not comfortable, and I don't think that's an appropriate role for the city to do. So I think it is appropriate for the city to say, these are the rules, and how to maintain that is a discussion that happens between the service providers and the businesses. Now, I think we ought to make sure that there's something that's doable, whether that be additional dumpsters that are brought in on those heavy weekends. I do have some pictures I took of dumpsters that were at 200% capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. last weekend.
Even, you know, on Friday afternoons and stuff. So whether that's, and actually, I think due to the nature of this conversation, we have a full council here, I will, if it's okay with the council, I will take some input from the public about what they think, if that's something that they think can be negotiated, because we don't want to put something in place that you're just going to get fined $100 every weekend. But I also feel that it only takes 1 or 2, particularly those large restaurant dumpsters, I mean, we have this, not to keep it nice, we have this for public safety. We have
Right.
2 goals. We want to protect the public, and we have had people getting charged by bears this year. And we want to protect the bears. We don't want to be teaching them bad behavior, so we have to put them down when there's not a zoo to relocate them to.
So,
Councilmember, Tupin?
in terms of the businesses, part of me, again, I think a big part of it is that this is law, it is a public health and safety concern, and I think that it's one of those things that you need to figure out a way to resolve that during those busy times. I mean, it's something that I have to do within my own business, to where when the residential cans are completely overflowing, I have to go unload those and store that trash until cans are picked up. So we don't allow our trash cans to overflow after guest stays.
Right.
Okay.
So, again, that's kind of my input on that. Otherwise, in terms of the stuff in this ordinance, there's a few minor edits that I have that I'll just give you after.
Are they content or just kind of edits?
Just edits, but specifically content-related ones, sorry. Instead of city code, city municipal code, or something along those lines. And then the fourth, whereas the people of Red Lodge live with wildlife and wish no harm to come to them. I don't want bears to get killed, but I can't necessarily say my neighbor does. Like, I think it's a little presumptuous, and that just might need a little rewording.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
certain
Yep.
animals
Send it
in town,
over.
like,
Yeah, again, it's minor, but it's still just something to.
Is there some wording you can think of that kind of,
I think it would just be more so that the city of Red Lodge has wildlife coming, yeah, there's
and
wildlife.
this is a public health and safety
Yeah,
issue?
and we want to make sure that the public is safe and
Yeah.
the public gets along with that wildlife, something like that, where we can
Coexist.
coexist, yeah.
Coexist, there's a good
Okay.
word.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ronning, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just, I guess I would like to hear Tom's input on that,
Okay,
if
we'll
that's-
go
if
to
that's
him for a
okay.
minute.
And, I know that we used to allow, in the spring especially, and in the fall, you could have, yard waste in a bag outside of your dumpster.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And
And
so,
we do have that in our
Okay.
contract for one
right, but
one
this
non-attractive
would
bag.
make it that you can't. So I think you need to allow for that.
Well,
Yeah,
no, we're
it's a good
calling it attractants.
Contain,
Attractant.
it just says containers shall not be overfilled, so they don't close
So
securely.
we need to add an
And you
additional
also
thing
have in here that
says
everything has to be in the dumpster,
one yard waste non-attractant,
yeah,
okay?
so, because, yeah, in the spring and the fall, when you're doing yard waste.
And I don't think we even limited that to the spring and the fall, but in fairness, that's
Anytime.
when it would exist.
Right,
Okay.
exactly, so,
All right, Councilmember Root, did you have a
Yeah, I'm
hand
having,
earlier?
I don't know, is 200% hyperbole?
Oh, no, I will show you a picture.
200%?
It's stacked as
Oh.
high above the dumpster as it was in the dumpster.
Okay, that's.
I thought they should sign up for a Jenga match, because they would have won.
Well, I suggested this a couple of months ago when we were talking about this, but, in my mind's eye, I can see a couple dumpsters on the south side of, say, Cedarwood Villa, and restaurants, you know, can put them in the back of a pickup truck and take them out there, or get a little, Polaris Ranger to pick them up and take them out to that, it's close to the restaurant, it's not gonna be stinky, because it's away from where people live, but why not bring in one or two dumpsters, park them in that location, and
any business who gets.
and have a runner just pick them up in the back of a pickup truck. So,
I mean, I'm good with
Right.
that too, but.
Any other input at the table before I take public comment? All right, with council's blessing and permission, and given that we have a person who has some experience in this, Tom, would you like to stand up and address the council and start with your name for record, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Tompkins, I own several businesses in town. Just to relate, I think there's a couple of aspects that I would add to this, is that a business should have a dumpster that fits the waste they produce, period, right? Like, and so I can have a 2-yard dumpster, I can have a 4-yard dumpster, I can have a 6-yard dumpster. If I'm producing 6 yards of waste, I should have a 6-yard dumpster. If I'm producing 4 yards of waste, I should not have a 2-yard dumpster. So some of the part is making sure that the businesses provide the correct size dumpster. For public services, charges you more for the bigger dumpster you get, and more often that you get it picked up. So I believe that is the responsibility of the business to provide for adequate dumpster size. There is an issue, and I would just provide a little bit input here. Republic Service is a regulated monopoly. So as a business, we do not have much negotiation power with them. And so I believe your ordinance would say any service providing garbage must not go more than 2 days without picking up garbage. So if you put that in your ordinance, and they are required to not leave us more than 2 days, then that should be their requirement. Because as a business, it's reasonable for us to size our dumpsters to be able to make it through a weekend. Now you take the 4th of July, like the mayor says, put the 4th of July on a Monday, now all of a sudden we have a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday and a Monday, and you cannot manage that. And you can't call Republic and say, can you please send your folks up here on, the holiday, so that they'll pick up. You don't have that kind of power, and you have the trash. So you're not gonna close your business because you don't wanna produce the trash. And it's not reasonable on your own to try to go out and get that extra capacity for that one holiday. So it's building that as a reasonable piece, or having them, bringing in shared dumpsters is a little bit challenging, but it might provide some solution. Ultimately, the business has to have adequate size dumpsters. If they're on a regular weekend like we had this past weekend, you shouldn't have been overflowing.
Can I ask a couple of clarifying questions? I think what I heard you say was, I agree that the city is okay to say, basically, you need to have a dumpster that fits your needs and to expect the businesses to step up to that.
Yes.
The second thing I heard you say was, we may be able to make that easier by including a clause in our ordinance which allows them to deal with that in a situation when they might not otherwise be able to do so.
Yeah, or requires the company that is doing the trash, that's their responsibility. Part of their business license to be able to pick up trash means they cannot leave the businesses
Gotcha.
hanging. Because again, if Republic decides not to show up one day, my dumpsters are gonna be overflowing. There's nothing I can do about that. And so you're gonna have to go down, and then you're gonna be finding everybody in the alley because Republic didn't show up. It's really not our fault, it's kind of their fault. And so, and we don't have, it's not like we've got 7 different garbage companies we can choose to go.
You have nobody,
And,
just them.
yeah, exactly, that's the problem, and so we have no flexibility.
Do you think that clause could include or other suitable means, AKA extra dumpsters or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we just acknowledge that it has to, either picked up every not more than 2 days or has other suitable means. And even that drives us back to the businesses must have the ability, well, except for that, theirs is a lot more. Do businesses have like 1 a week pickup, 2 a week pickup? Do they have different
Some
variations?
do, so you can get 1 a week, 2 a week, or 3 a week, usually, and you can choose the day, I believe. Usually people either have Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, or Monday and Friday.
And do you think by the time somebody got their second or third $100 ticket for not having adequate trash, that they would then call and renegotiate?
Cannot answer that.
It costs,
Or are you saying it's cheaper to pay the $100?
honestly, it's cheaper to pay the $100. I just bumped my trash can up to twice a week because of the shack in the back. And it's just been really busy and it went from 256 up to 456 for so it's an extra.
But that's a
$200
month.
And I know that's
a week.
possible because, Disneyland pays $30,000 fine every night so they can set off fireworks and
Yeah.
make noise.
Oh, wow.
So,
And that's just the cost of doing business. So,
if it's only during the month of July, yeah, I mean, it's cheaper to pay the fine.
You're still gonna have
But-
some pieces, but what I would say from a business standpoint in garbage production, where I would have told you years ago that, we have 2 really big days and it's hard to meet those days, 4th of July and probably rodeo. We had 3 days busier in June, busier than this past weekend. So it's all summer. I mean, so, you're not producing that much more trash on any of those given days. I mean, our business is, 4th of July is a busier day, but for the most part, we have busy weekends every weekend to do something.
and I know we are looking at the business license process and putting some things in there that says, if you're gonna have a restaurant, you have to have if you're gonna have
Adequate.
grease, you've gotta have grease storage, so there's a couple, if you're gonna, different businesses, you've gotta be set up to do that, and that may be the place where we address that. And then now somebody's in danger of losing their business license if they are purposefully, or the business registration. Somebody's in danger of losing their right to do business if they don't provide that adequate, so maybe that's a better place to do that.
I have a
Councilmember
question for
Rude.
Tom, what do you think the smallest dumpster a restaurant should have?
That's a loaded question.
Look at those.
It depends on the the restaurant, you know, I mean, the smallest dumpster you get is a 2-yard.
Right.
So,
But we have a hot dog cart.
yeah, so it's hard to say, it really is hard to say, because it really depends a lot on the business, you know, so, you know, a small restaurant that, it is possible for a restaurant to be very low waste. Unfortunately, we do not have, composting here, which could really lower the amount of waste that we put out, but, it really is very dependent on the restaurant. You know, different restaurants have different things.
But it sounds like I'm not putting this on you, but there might be a degree of frustration that so-and-so is not buying a big enough dumpster. And that's why my question is,
I think it's a performance-based test.
Yep.
Can you fit your garbage in your dumpster? That's really, you know, if you're overflowing.
The third week in a row, we didn't
Yeah,
evaluate.
that's it, you know, I mean, and then you either need to order a bigger dumpster or more stops, right? It's actually cheaper to order a bigger dumpster than it is to do more pickups, and.
They told me it wasn't,
it-
so
Generally,
it is.
my understanding and my experience is that they would rather have the bigger dumpster, less lift, they call them.
Yeah,
And then it is, so a 2-yard twice a week is more expensive than a 4-yard once a week.
Okay.
That's the way it used to be. I don't know what their pricing is not consistent. It's not
they were
consistent for
gonna
businesses.
charge me $120 to replace the dumpster. And since I'm only gonna do it through the summer, I was
So
like,
there's a.
So it may be time, versus year. So, any other questions for our expert testimony while we have him?
Just to add to that, it is, the most efficient thing is to have a larger dumpster and to adjust the amount of lifts you get on the dumpster, increase it on the summer, decrease it in the winter.
Yeah.
Then you're not switching out dumpsters. That minimizes your teeth, and they hope that you forget to reduce the number of lifts that you put up in the summer, and then you keep
Yep.
paying them all winter.
Sure,
new dumpsters happen.
of course.
Tom,
Like Hulu.
is there enough waste of recyclables? Or is that a torture for the staff to
We
divert some
Republic
recyclables?
used to have, recyclables, they used to have recyclable dumpsters, and that significantly reduced the amount of waste we put in our dumpsters, which helped immensely. I believe they're required to do that in Billings, and so they still have it in Billings. They're not required to do it here, so they don't. So that is a way to
Reduce.
reduce the amount that goes in the dumpsters, is to require them to have recycling in some way, shape, or form. But again, they're not willing to do it for us anymore.
Any other questions for Tom? Thank you, sir. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
So my question as we bring this back to the table is twofold. I wanna throw one other situation / report I had into here and see if there's a way that it fits into here. So I got a report this week of somebody concerned who was pouring stuff out in the back alley. And it was like water, but there was a concern if it had grease or melted ice cream or who knows what in it that would be an attractant. Is there an opportunity for that to be better addressed here that,
Oh.
It was.
pardon?
Depends on what it was. I mean,
I like that we
I know,
focus,
like-
that, I think
I'm like-
if we say if it's an attractant,
yeah.
you know, is that a separate, it shall be against to dispose of attractants in the city stormwater.
I think that would go into chapter 1, but I don't know if that's necessarily something that would go into section 16 solid waste.
If it was a bucket, it wasn't solid, to your point.
Right.
Well, and it's more so, again, that would be like, it's not like you're littering, it's a nuisance, and it's a safety hazard potentially, but again, I don't think it would go within solid waste and how we handle our trash cans.
Do you think
Dispose,
agree with
maybe if
that?
we had it as refuse or dispose, but, you know, that's, again, just based off of if we're actually looking at the code and what it is and how it's titled, that would be very confusing, I think, for folks to find that. Or it would be covered in the fact that solid waste and refuse should be stored in metal or plastic containers. So essentially, you don't get to throw stuff out in the street, you have to throw it down a drain. I don't know, that's my thought.
That would just be like modify A, so solid waste or attractant refuse?
Or just, and again,
Or
I,
just refuse?
yep, it could
We-
even be,
We addressed, that it couldn't generate odors beyond the property line or allow liquid runoff. In
yeah,
other
that's
words,
like, it's specifically talking about the can though.
Yeah,
I think
the
that's
can
issue.
itself.
It's not talking about the action of throwing your dishwater out the
I'll
window.
throw some, I'll look through some of that, what we've got in that chapter,
Yeah,
to see how it addresses liquid waste.
So if you have your dirty mop bucket, you can't throw that like in the backyard.
Out the window.
yeah.
You have to put it down the drain. Okay. I mean, that's
It
what you're
works
getting at.
exactly the same way.
I'm
You have to
asking.
put it down like your
Or if
utility.
it's grease, you need to store that and put that in your trash can, because
Yeah.
you don't wanna put that down your trash.
No, I know, exactly, no. I just-
And this was just a citizen report but the assumption was that it had attractant waste in it and there was a concern in it.
I mean, I could see attractant waste, but.
Pardon?
Have one more comment, can I comment on that?
Please.
I'm like,
So
It did come from a block that you have a presence on, so please, Bill.
I will speak for two positions here, Tom Coons, Fire Chief. One is you want to be very cautious about, you want to make sure that you have an ordinance that prohibits any kind of liquid waste being allowed to go into the storm sewer, for, two reasons. One, if it's grease, can cause serious problems. I'm sure your public works director would tell you about that.
yeah.
Also, even just along the words of the mop water, mop water is, since we are getting to a point where we are not treating our stormwater anymore, that mop water would then end up in the storm sewer, which is not a treated piece, so that's.
So we
Goes in
need
our
it,
creek.
but it won't, to whoever's point it was, it doesn't fit here, and that was you,
Okay.
but yes, we need to
Yeah,
address
you
it.
need to address it. You should not be able to put any kind of liquid waste out
Outside.
into
The stormwater.
into the gutter or the alley. All that should be managed in the business in a proper container, especially if it might be farm.
Okay. Was that the?
That was-
Fire chief part, yeah.
Yeah, that,
All right.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So then my next question to council as a whole is, as you've made notes, and this is to Committee Chair Conley, but also Councilmember Rood and Councilmember Davis is not here. Do you guys think the changes that were discussed tonight are sufficient to bring this forward for action at the next meeting, or do you want one extra cycle?
let's do one extra cycle.
Okay. So we'll bring that as an updates for council, but we won't move it to the action part of the agenda.
But I'd like to say, Sandy, I think you did a great job in boiling this down. We've been, working with this for months, and I think you did a great job of boiling this down.
Well, thank
So
you, and just so that we can get to the discussion
Yeah.
part.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other further input from public health and safety?
We didn't have the police chief there this morning, but we basically got, heard that there was lower traffic or crowd complaints.
Oh,
The throttle down signs were really nice. There was a higher officer presence on Friday and Saturday night. They were in pairs, and I think all they had to do is give them burgers. So they were the right price. There was an incident with a protester using his sign to poke a drunk, who, they apparently had a disagreement based on the sign, and I believe they dealt with that.
And I would just like to clarify, that was not a witnessed or observed behavior, and there was no action taken on that, so, but the drunk was not in dispute, and there was action taken on that.
Yeah, yes, it was
So-
taken care of.
Public intoxication.
I know that the group that organizes those protests was really concerned and wanted to make sure that there was not, bad information out there, and I just
Yeah,
made the observation of the what had been filed, and that there was a possibility something had happened that they hadn't witnessed, but nothing had happened, but I think they will look forward in the future to help make sure that they are not contributing to that problem as well.
and that they realize that everybody has free speech.
Yes,
both
and that
sides
was
of every
part of
issue.
that discussion.
Yeah. And that
You
was
raised
it.
one other thing I want to ask, tangentially, I had a request to whether we wanted to leave the throttle down signs up through the car show, and I don't And I don't know, it's not, I'm gonna respond, and to me, it's their call, but does council have anything they think would be advantageous to leave those up through the weekend, or?
Or the summer?
Well, no.
I mean-
I think if you leave them up too much, it takes it away,
Yeah,
but it was just
people
whether they
ignore
were
it.
needed for the car show.
Yeah, I,
Realistically, the car show generally takes place right there on Main Street. We don't get a whole lot of the traffic coming up and down the hills
Okay.
anymore since they got rid of the drag
So we don't
race.
have a preference, is what I'm hearing.
Mostly, I don't think most of those guys are
I don't think it's an issue.
throttling, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not really an issue.
All right.
not anymore anyhow.
Thank you. Any other questions for, public health and safety?
nope.
All right, hearing none, let's move to admin and finance, and for that, I will turn to Committee Chair Ronning, who I presume will want to start with her guest and presentation.
Yes, Mr. Coons. Our Chair of the Resort Tax Committee is here, to present the resort tax board's recommendation.
And I will mention for the benefit of council and also, the public. So council has a copy of that report in front of you for reference. And we will include it in the packet for everybody next time. Mr. Coons, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. As the introduction stated, my name is Tom Coons, and I am the chair, although slightly reluctantly, of the Resort Tax Committee. And it's a pleasure to be here to chat with you a little bit about the resort tax here. Let's look like that. Wonder of modern technology. It's amazing how simple that is, actually. So, thank you for letting me be here, to come chat with you a little bit about resort tax. I hope you're aware that we have a resort tax committee. The resort tax committee, having a resort tax committee was recommended in, when we did the resort tax renewal. The members are appointed by the council and the mayor, and we meet monthly. Originally, we had hoped that we would meet quarterly, but it has not turned out that way. We do meet monthly. Councilman Ronning is our council rep, and we have a great group of folks who put a lot of energy and effort into helping make sure that the resort tax is, bringing in the money, it is administered correctly, and that really that the public understands what is going on with the resort tax. Because prior to the renewal, there had been a lot of public dissatisfaction with the resort tax, and we found through the renewal process, just by doing education and communicating with folks, that people ultimately, in the end, realized that they really were appreciative of the resort tax, and we saw that in the passage of the resort tax. Historically, prior to that renewal, a lot of the resort tax funds went to water and sewer. That has not changed. I'll explain that in a second. But there really was a feeling within the community that we needed to be able to focus a little bit more on projects that people could feel and touch and see. So we did a survey. The survey outlined what was important to the community, and we kind of grouped things into three groups. There was things that people were really kind of eager to see in the resort tax, things that people liked, and things people were reluctant to have included in the resort tax. Streets and sidewalks, upgraded infrastructure, stormwater improvements, a lot of that was education, parks and trails, tourism infrastructure, continuing to have things that helped make the tourist experience good, was really important, and the community pool. Community facilities we talked a lot about in the renewal, and there was definitely, the community wanted to see, and we told them they would see, things that they could use as part of the resort tax. Snow plowing was important, water and sewer, community services, fire and EMS, and economic development came in, in that next tier. That things that had more negative than positive, workforce housing, and this is actually an order, property tax relief, which we found to be interesting. Folks were actually not necessarily interested in property tax relief. They actually wanted to see stuff get accomplished with the resort tax more than they wanted to see property tax relief. Police and protective service did not fare well. Marketing to increase revenue, we heard a lot about that. There was a push to say, hey, we want to be able to include community marketing in this. And the feeling was we'd rather see make the stuff more attractive, don't spend the money on actual marketing. City buildings did not fare well. I cannot tell you why. City services, enforcement and clerk, a little bit of perspective on that, and local event funding and grants. There was this piece that we would maybe use resort tax money to help promote local events. They do that a lot in Big Sky, and there you can see that was the thing that scored the absolute lowest, that the community really was not overly eager to see us promoting, using resort tax funds, that marketing, promoting events. Prior to renewal, 79% of the money went to projects. 15% went to property tax relief, 5% to the merchants, and 1% to admin. And the feedback that we got is they wanted to see the money get used on projects that benefited the community. They wanted to be able to feel in touch. There were a couple of things that were big with this. The pool was a big piece. Things like the pool and parks were important. We also made the change with that resort tax prior to this renewal, we could not use it for operational funds. And the big example was we were able to build a playground, but we couldn't maintain a playground. And so they wanted to see the stuff that we were building be maintained. And although snow plowing was kind of the top of that middle tier, folks wanted to be able to, again, we could buy a snow plow, but we couldn't pay for the driver. So to help support Public Works so they could keep the parks looking good and operating and keep our streets and keep the snow plow. That was important to folks. We did do this in January. Probably helps if we'd done it in July. We might not have had the snow plow push. I can't tell. Even the merchant said, hey, the part that we're getting back is, we'd rather see that go to projects. We got to process this anyway. And so kind of the piece was we lowered the property tax to 5%. We got rid of the admin fee. We got rid of the fee to the merchant. So 95% could go to projects. In that first part, it was about $3 million that ended up in property tax relief and merchants and in admin. And so that in this forward, we get, a full 16% essentially coming back in, which is significant when we look at where we spend money. I'll come back to that in just a second. So this is resort tax versus property tax, and you can see the resort tax is huge in terms of what kind of funding it brings to our community. Until that 2020 piece, it ran about even with property tax, and then you can see that it has just skyrocketed since then. Why has it skyrocketed? 2 reasons. One, we added a 1% infrastructure tax. So that's a 33% increase in what we were charging and collecting for resort tax. So the 33% increase just on the basis of adding that 1% infrastructure tax. But then also economic factors have a big push into that. We're doing more business. As we were talking a little bit earlier, June now and September are actually months where businesses are actually able to make money. Our summer season has expanded by really about 2 months. We really go pretty well from the beginning of June to the end of September. Prior to 2020, we really, it was July and August. And so there's been multiple factors on that. Some of that's been events that have come in, but some of it is just Red Lodge as a whole. But you can see that our downtown is really core to what brings people into our community, and it's really an important part of our a really important part of our community and what maintains our community. Because while this shows in resort tax, it also shows an economic value to the community. It's wages that are paid. it is jobs that exist, and so, you know, it's not, this isn't just about the resort tax, what brings people to our community, it's about the economics of the community too, that allow people to pay the property tax. It also, just to point out, if people are telling you that our property taxes in Red Lodge have skyrocketed, you can honestly say, it's not because of us. You can see that clearly in the graph. Part of that is even that 5%, as this money has gone up, that 5% has increased in value, and so that 5% is actually significant as well. So collections, this is based on the 24 year, which is last year, because we don't actually have collection numbers for the last quarter yet. Although I'm sure they're getting processed right now. But what this shows essentially is that July, August, and September are our biggest months. You see October and December, as well as January and February, are significantly lower. April, May, and June look to be good. I will tell you they're only good because of June. So April and May actually are two slowest months, but June really has become a summer month. We hope when you adopt the new version of the ordinance, the city will become more adamant in enforcing folks reporting giving us monthly figures, so we'll be able to give you better detail about when business is by the month. That it's on the form now, not everybody fills out the form correctly. There's a reluctance from city staff to require them to fill out the form correctly, so we're hoping the revised ordinance will help with that process. Stormwater is a big part of what the collection pieces do, and we brought in almost $2 million in stormwater, and the community is very supportive of that. Part of that pitch for the 1% was that we would relieve some pressure on the 3% resort tax in water and sewer, so there would be more money for some of those other projects like pool and parks as well. So that was a big piece, is that you know, we were spending way more than half of ourselves on water and sewer prior, and they wanted more money for some of the other pieces. We still say more than half in actual expenditures on water, sewer, and stormwater, but part of that is 25% is guaranteed to go towards stormwater, right? Because that's part of that project. And obviously, as we talked earlier, the stormwater does also include not only the pipe underground, but the sidewalk and the curb and gutter above as well. That was part of that project originally. And this project goes until completed. So this 1% isn't timed out necessarily, because until the project is completed. Once that stormwater project is funded and completed, then that 1% goes away, and we would need to have another vote on another project. So you could consider what would be important to the community. I know what we talked about at the time was probably streets would be, you know, to continue with streets improvement, but it could be anything else. It could be City Hall, it could be anything that you could focus on that after this. My impression in talking to the Public Works Director is don't expect that project to be finished anytime soon. You may know more information than I do on that, but I think that stormwater project still has lots of work to do. But one of the things that is really important is that stormwater project relieves pressure on our wastewater system, and so by continuing to pull stormwater out of our wastewater system, we are, you know, also being able to extend the life of our current wastewater system. So that's a really important piece. A lot of what goes into our wastewater system is stormwater, and so as we pull that out, we gain capacity in our wastewater system. So that it is also about community capacity, right? Room for growth as we do that. The Resort Tax Committee considered budget requests and where the funds should go. At the mayor's direction, we built a balanced budget that allows for a cash reserve of $300,000. We also build into this a $600,000 contingency. So there is a $600,000 in potential income and then a $6,000 reserve. So those two pieces are not part of what we would plan to spend. If that money were actually to come in, we would push that to the next fiscal year for spending, although you could modify the budget to spend it if there was a windfall of some sort there. But the idea is it provides some cushion within the resort tax. If you bring in more than you expect to bring in, that goes back directly to property tax relief by ordinance, and so the goal here is to ensure that we have that money for projects. Questions on that? Keep going here. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Here's the detailed budget request. It's divided into two sections, so you guys can see clearly what is expected to be reoccurring and what is expected is just one-time fund. So you get a feel for, hey, here's what's gonna, just keep coming up year after year. I will say that when we go back to the income, the way we at least budgeted for this, we do include pool fees in the resort tax amounts, so they're part of that. So you get about $75,000 in pool fees there.
Tom, can you make that full screen, or is that it?
That you guys can do that. I do not do that.
That's,
This is a top and bottom, he's just put them side by side
Oh,
to fit them
gotcha.
on
Okay,
that,
gotcha.
to go to that.
okay,
But you could do that if you, it's little, I apologize that it's big on here, but the way that is, it makes it smaller. So, yeah, so that is on that sheet, that printed sheet that you have, and it shows those.
can't see it. I can't see it.
So you see on that printed sheet, I'll just show you on it, so just to help out, if that's helpful, if I can't find it.
I have one for you if you want.
You can just see here, so, this is the income piece right up here. And then this second section here, that is the reoccurring ones. And then the bottom is the one-time capital projects.
Right.
Okay?
And the revenue, you have the previous year's collections rounded off,
That's correct?
1.47.
Yep.
Interest, the pool fees, end of year cash balance, so that you're carrying a cash balance.
That's an approximate amount of what was left in the resort tax fund at the end of the year.
Oh,
So part of the reason there is so much in that is this, the $523,000 vacuum truck was supposed to be spent this year, but it's not done yet, so it hasn't been spent. So that ended up, it just carried over. It doesn't, so it's just little less extra.
okay.
Less extra in that fund piece. And again, the mayor's direction is to be conservative in our budgeting, and so, we're not, we're not overinflating numbers. We're, probably what, you'll find that we will do better than this when the year is up.
And that's the expected contingent collection?
That's why that's in there for expected
You
contingency.
kind of think it's gonna go up 600,000?
I don't think it will, I don't think it'll go up more than that.
Oh, okay.
I will
The
tell you
mayor
right
was
now,
on
from my
council.
personal business perspective, we're seeing about a 4% increase over last year. 4 to 5% increase over last year.
The mayor was on council several years ago through that dip in the earlier chart, when we didn't understand what the implications were of putting that in there, and so we ended up giving back additional property tax relief, which is where the public came back and said, we'd rather you kept the money and used it. So that's why, you remember last year, it's like, pay off the pool early,
Yeah,
or do some of those big projects. We have it built in, so if suddenly every week is 4th of July for the summer,
Yeah.
then we use it and we take care of it.
okay.
But it's also, you'll note that the goal, and Tom alluded to it, is it's not something that we have a dependency on. We're not gonna go out and take a loan because we're anticipating that. So we'll spend it when we get, it's like the bonus, if you will. Don't
Yeah.
spend it till you have it.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just pull back to this one for a second. When we did this resort tax thing, we built a projection of where we thought the resort tax would go, and it looked like this. So we have far exceeded where we thought the resort tax would go when we did this, which gives us additional revenue to do better with our projects, right? So that, we've been fortunate that the resort tax collections have been what they have been, and they continue to go up much more than what we thought, so, what we thought would happen. The pieces in that reoccurring piece, there's $250,000 for water and sewer. That has been there since the beginning. And, when we did the renewal, what we had told the community is that would probably, stay there. There has been some talks about whether it can be reallocated. However, really, the intention was that it would stay there but not grow. So what happens is that $250,000 at one point was 50% of our resort tax. And now, it's 17% of our resort tax. So it's dropped as our resort tax numbers have gone up, yeah. Streets operation maintenance, as well as pool operation and maintenance and parks operation and maintenance, those are reoccurring funds to do snow plowing. We have an employee, who is split between the streets and parks and 50%, to each one of those, and associated costs with the work that he does. And then, parks projects, are, a big piece of, what we do and what that resort tax has always had, so that number has been in there. It was upped by $20,000 in this year's budget to cover and give them the ability to do additional parks projects. I will tell you, they don't often spend all their money, which is fine, but it gives them some flexibility to do, parks projects. And then if they want to do something significant, and then something like private park, which we'll talk about, that becomes a separate one-time piece.
So that goes to the Parks Board?
That goes to the Parks Board, yeah, that's the money
Parks
that the,
Department, yeah.
yeah, that's the Parks Board sets those spending, so we don't set that spending, the Parks Board sets that spending.
And more specifically, they recommend or make
Correct.
their advisory role, and then Public Works with council approval does the individual projects.
We do not provide any for fire protection, that was in there, but then removed. And street signs had been in there, and I believe that project is done as well, so that's why those two are zeroed in there. Law enforcement, there is kind of a reoccurring piece, and I had it in two places, but it was a little confusing about, we have had a reoccurring charge that's every other year for police that is for vehicles. So $50,000 a year, $100,000 every 2 years for replacement of vehicles. This includes some additional capital items that they're hoping to purchase, so that's why it's at $145,000. So that has typically been in every other year at $100,000, so I would like to get that moved so that we understand what that is, and then the reoccurring. The vacuum truck was approved last year, ordered, hasn't been delivered, so it's carried over into this year. The mini loader is requested by Public Works, and their hope is to be able to have a more maneuverable loader to do snow removal with. The Resort Tax Committee thought that was a good idea. Ice rink has been something that's been talked about as kind of the next project. There is a grant, a pilot tourism grant, that is providing funding to be able to improve and build kind of a whole bunch of tourism infrastructure pieces. The ice rink is a part of that, so that's in there. It will be much more expensive than that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you see that 400,000, is that the total project required city match, or what would we expect to see that number be in future years?
I think there will be the potential to have it be more. I think the hope is that we could, maybe spend a little bit more, another couple $100,000 in a future year, but I think the hope is that we can find other grant donation sources to help fund that.
So that may be one of those one-time.
Yes. Yeah. The intention is not to be reoccurring. There might be another capital piece, but there shouldn't be a particularly reoccurring piece
And
with that.
this is just for match funds, correct? Or is
It's
this
not,
for-
it's contribution funds as opposed to match funds, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Then the mayor mentioned the sidewalk repair. This was an idea of a method to get us improved sidewalks as opposed to, and I think more some of this was, if we allocated funds for sidewalks, which again was something the community said we'd love to see sidewalk improvement, how do you decide who gets their sidewalk? You know, right? And so the priority, I think the idea of the match funds is put some skin in the game. If you're willing to do half, we'll do half, and you'll get some, I think we thought that was a good idea, and would provide an opportunity to help be able to figure out what sidewalks get done by how much people want to match. The EDA sidewalks, you guys have heard about that. The Pride Park improvements, that has been something that's been on the list for a while to upgrade Pride Park. There's issues with concrete and the flower boxes and all kinds of things. And again, this is a big piece, mostly because, or primarily because it is the most visible park we have, obviously, downtown. It gets a lot of use, and we really haven't put any resort tax money into our downtown. Back a long time ago, we bought streetlights, but there has not been a significant amount of, we ground the sidewalks, but there has not been a lot of money into actually helping the downtown, which is the economic engine that drives this whole thing, right? And then Brewery Hill set aside, originally, our hope was just to leave that as a future project. The mayor asked that we kind of set aside some money for Brewery Hill so that we would be ready, that project goes in. But our plan is we actually put money in next year's budget, that would be a primary project, that Brewery Hill piece.
That would be the ice rink of the year, as it were.
Yeah.
And the question is that $50,000, is that our match on the Brewery Hill project, or is there more?
That's only a portion of it. That's
Portion of the match.
basically in case, and again, that could change in October, November, if we hear we didn't get it,
Yeah.
then that won't be there. But what we're doing is we're setting aside and making sure we don't forget it, and we've got it there.
We put
As a line item.
$300,000 into next year's project budget for that.
For that.
That's what we were told to, so, told that we needed to. Questions? Any questions back on that?
So, in terms of the input process, we have the things that are regular, and you guys just budget for those. In terms of the capital projects, again, you said that Mike Maples makes a strong presence known.
He has made, yes, so what we asked for the mayor is to have the department heads come and give us a picture of where, they want to. Mike has been great at showing up and explaining, again, what he's been doing with the resort tax and where, so where the money that we're currently spending is going and how it's benefiting the community as well as future needs.
And I will just add to that, that I didn't push or articulate that probably as well. So one thing that you guys have seen, for particularly those on the admin committee, you may recall that there had been in the discussions $50,000 set aside for future police department that's very similar to the Brewery Hill set aside or the ice rink sort of projects. I failed to, when they came, what I should have done and what I will do in the future is say, build your presentation, go and convince the resort tax committee to include this and budget for it. The resort tax committee then goes back to that very, very first survey slide that Tom showed, that showed where the public input and said, yes, we feel good and we'll include that in our recommendation. Now, ultimately, it's still the mayor's budget approved by council. So, but at the same time, I think it's very, very important that we take this input, particularly as it feeds back to that survey, because one of the benefits of this group is helping us make sure that we get that resort tax renewed in the future when we want to.
Follow-up question on the survey, how frequently do you do those? Because that was,
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, so there's two pieces to that survey. We actually have one drafted and we've got stuck in doing the ordinance and we did not move forward with the survey.
so I understand.
So, we will do the survey this fall. We'd really like to do that.
However,
The
it's
other
gonna be
piece
different
is
things.
that does relate to this survey is part of the thing that's important about the survey, it's what we built the,
Ordinance.
it's what we built the ballot off
I'm sorry,
of.
ballot work.
And then the ballot drove the ordinance.
Right.
So, you know, there's some things in that community thing that this was built as a 20-year kind of plan that folks voted on. And so that doesn't mean it can't be adjusted and moved in some respects, but in some things you can't change, right?
Right.
You cannot, use it for fire department operations, even if you wanted to, right? Like that's
Without
not,
going to the
that's
voters and ballot.
that's not in the ballot language.
Yep.
So, you know, so that's really important, but it is, so I think that is, you know, what we kind of said, here's what you're voting for is important. And if we are gonna change it, we can tweak it based on, hey, community has kind of, you know, changed a little bit in their vision, but if we were really to change it drastically, we probably should
Right,
redo
yeah,
the.
and that wasn't at all the intention, it's
Yeah.
just to see where these priorities fall in again.
Yeah,
And again,
100%.
within that ordinance.
Yes,
Yep.
we have that plan, we drafted the thing, we just have not followed through, so, I believe we do need to do that.
Counselor, can you move towards your closing arguments?
Yeah. So this is just the last kind of graph to show you, you know, in this year's piece, we're still, you know, really running a little bit less than 50% in water and sewer, because we have some of those, other projects, specifically, some of the street improvements and the parks pieces, but, you know, just gives you an idea. But what I think really important piece is that we are starting to see in the resort tax having the room, so we continue to focus on parks, and we focus on the things that really help the experience be better in Red Lodge. The one thing, you know, so it is that kind of tourism infrastructure. It's, and I just come back quickly towards the ice rink and this pilot tourism grant. The goal is, the whole focus of this grant is to try to increase those dips. So it's all winter focused, so that we can provide things that will help make our community also viable in the winter. Improvements at Coal Miners Park with a sledding hill for kids, but, you know, providing something that they can do, even hopefully making that kind of an evening activity with sledding, having the ice rink, again, good both day and evening activity. It's probably one of the most used parks, because it's one of the only community outdoor activities that can happen in the winter months. But then also some of this focuses on that tourism grant is Roosevelt Center trying to be able to get conferences and meetings that can come in this off season, so we can help boost that when we have capacity. Okay?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any questions from the table for Tom?